So last time we started talking about generative AI, so applying the frameworks that we learned in the previous two episodes about printing press and the Industrial Revolution. So far we covered two elements in the framework. One is economic dynamics, and the second one was the workforce dynamics. So today we're going to cover the rest of the three elements.
Yes, so these three elements are ways of working, organizational dynamics, and drawbacks.
Cool.
Yeah. So let me start with the ways of working.
Okay.
So, we've already talked about in the last episode that generative AI will change how we work, right? We need to really think about how our work will be impacted. Let me give you an example. Generative AI, now we know that it automates certain processes, right? So that means generative AI frees employees to focus on like different types of job responsibilities, like more higher level responsibilities like strategy or complex problem solving or much deeper customer engagement. You know, I mentioned this in the first half of this episode. Thanks to generative AI, now I can code and then automate the data dashboard, people analytics dashboard, and with which, you know, with the saved time, now I can have a more like spontaneous discussion with my stakeholders, right? And then also I can, you know, use the time to learn new things. Yeah, so this is one big impact. But also now, let's say when we do a new project, I go to ChatGPT and then ask them to come up with project plan. And then from there, I elaborate, right? So this is a completely new ways of working, right? Of course, it's very important to give the right prompt to ChatGPT so that you will get the right, more relevant suggestion, right? In a way that we have a new assistant, right?
Right.
So this is one of the things about how AI changes ways of working. And then now, thanks to generative AI, we can become more data-driven organizations as well. You know, we've been talking about like many people in the modern corporate world talking about how we can leverage data, and data is new oil, etc. Right? But now, finally, you know, generative AI can do a lot of things, right? Because generative AI can rapidly analyze data and then visualize things, and also, you know, uncover insights that previously took hours and hours. Let's say HR. In HR, we've been kind of dreaming about becoming data-driven HR, but then many organizations have been struggling. But now, finally, you know, time has come. We can use generative AI to automate data process and then quickly come up with the data insights, right? But then for that, of course, we need to have a well-maintained database and a well-structured database and accurate data. And then, you know, we need really high-quality inputs. So robust data management practices are really essential for success.
Having a solid database, well-maintained data pipelines, I understand, but those kind of things I think falls into IT department's responsibility rather than, you know, HR. So I wonder like what HR has to do here, like what they can do.
Sure. Firstly, I want to thank you because you translate what I wanted to say. Yeah, data pipeline. You know, it's of course we need involvement or help from IT team as well. But then high quality HR database and accuracy. This is not the IT team's responsibility.
You're talking about the data that HR department is responsible for, like the employee data and...
Yeah.
Okay.
But then also, of course, we need HR people who understands the data flow, database, you know, so that HR can effectively work with data team or IT team to build the data structure, you know. So it's a really joint effort between IT, data, and HR, right? But what I wanted to say here is that now we cannot, you know, we have no excuse to become a data-driven HR. But for that, it's really important to have a well-maintained and accurate data and database. And then HR people need to be aware how data infrastructure is important. I really wanted to talk about a lot about my experience, but let's move on. We don't have enough time here.
Okay.
But just let me add one thing, because if we don't know about HR people don't know about the data structure or data flow, we don't know what kind of data we need to be careful about, why we need to make the data clean, right? And then eventually, when HR people use generative AI to get the insights, we cannot get the right insights because data are not clean. But HR people without this kind of knowledge, they don't know what they need to do here. If you have the certain knowledge about data, basic data structures, and then you will know that, okay, so now we need to fix this data so that we can get the more cleaner data, the more relevant and accurate insights.
Can you give me one example of business insights that the HR people can get from the data that they own, maybe the data about the employees? How would you use it?
There are a lot of different metrics, right? Like turnover or number of new hires. Okay, let's pick up anything, just gender balance, right?
Okay.
We sometimes analyze gender split, right? Like 40% male or 60% female in this department or in these countries, etc. Right? So, without before, like my personal experience, right? So without using ChatGPT, every time I go to a Excel spreadsheet, extract a report from system, and then play with the Excel spreadsheet, taking several hours, and then provide a PowerPoint report. So every time we have a different, a data criteria, etc. But now, we can get this data very quickly, accurately, and regularly using generative AI and to come up with the right coding. Maybe if you don't use coding, you may not understand what I'm saying.
Okay, so you use the Gen AI to write the code, maybe in Python or something, to regularly extract
exactly
insights from the data.
Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question properly.
No, but that's what I wanted to know.
Okay. Yeah, so this is how I use.
Okay, and then in order to summarize, in order to do that, company needs to have a solid data pipeline, a well-maintained database, right?
Yeah, for sure. But then also, if HR people don't have a basic knowledge about, database, data structure, data modeling, you don't have to know the very technical level. But then when you see some kind of anomaly in the data insights, and then you don't know where to fix. So this is what I wanted to say.
Okay.
Of course, 100% accurate data is not really easy, right? So sometimes, data is not clean. It happens. But then the important thing here is that to identify what data we need to clean to get more relevant and then reliable data.
I think here it would be super useful if people have a basic data skill, data knowledge.
Yeah.
For example, if there's any values missing in the table, how would you deal with it? Do you just forget about it, or do you want to replace with some kind of values? And if so, what kind of values are appropriate to replace the missing values? Then
yes.
This kind of basic skill, I think it would be useful. Even the HR people would have, and then they can contribute to even cleaner data, and then on top of that, Gen AI can be really useful.
Exactly. Thank you very much for summarizing it. And to be honest, I was kind of lost while I was talking. But
I'm here to help.
To be honest, I admit that I'm sure that I confused some listeners. I apologize for that. But yes, I think I delivered what I wanted to say.
Sometimes I'm useful, okay?
I mean, you are always very, very useful. I mean, I'm not here to use you. We help each other.
Okay.
So now we can talk about organizational dynamics, which is the fourth element of the framework.
Right.
So do you remember when we talked about the printing press, right? It impacted the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Right? Because, the printing press distributed the printed, the Bibles, right? And then people started to realize that what Catholic Church was teaching wasn't really written on the Bibles. Yeah. And then Catholic Church started to lose their authority.
Yeah,
So
I remember.
So the printing press changed the political dynamics. And then also we learned from the industrial revolutions that thanks to the new machines, new types of wealthy people emerged. And then they gained more power. And then traditional noble people lost their economical fundamentals, and then they lost power. Right?
Yeah.
So new technologies often change this political dynamics. Generative AI as well. Now, in many companies, they have a certain division or a team who is leading this generative AI topic, right? So they are the people who are now gaining more power. And then some like traditional departments can lose their presence. Right. So of course it depends on organization, but then it's really important for HR people to understand what kind of people, what kind of department gained more power because of the new technologies. I mean, in this case, generative AI, right? And then assign the right person to the right position, right? So without understanding this political power shift, we cannot assign the right person to the right position.
Right,
If HR assigns someone who is losing power, but used to have a power because of the traditional technology, and then if HR assigns this person to, I don't know, like a big role, maybe people think that, oh no, this person is old. I mean, old in a way, not about age, but skills and expertise, right? So in this case, people might not follow the person,
right?
Because the person is losing the power. So it's really important for HR to be aware of this kind of power dynamics shift.
Again, like I commented in the last episode, but I think organizational politics is sometimes good, sometimes bad. And then HR people should definitely not hesitate to play with it when the politics benefits the organization, not particular individuals. So in this sense, HR people should really be carefully looking at profiles of people, skills of people, and decide on the right assignment of the roles. At the same time, they need to be careful because people would fight for the rights, fight for the better positions. I said it earlier in the last episode, but in my client's company, they decided to assign budget, the rights to decide Gen AI related budget to one single team, and people were fighting for it. Like my team deserved this rights, and my team should have it, and stuff like that. So I think if you're HR, you need to really see them in a fair manner and think about what benefits the most.
Exactly. Yeah. As you mentioned, power attracts many things, including money. Right. So these people, these teams will have more budget.
Yeah. Exactly.
So there will be a new dynamics in the organization.
Yeah.
And then of course HR needs to understand that, and then identifying the people who are gaining power. But of course we need to also support who are kind of in a traditional, who own traditional skills, possess traditional skills, and then help them to upskill, right? So that they won't be obsolete.
Yeah. When it comes to my expertise, data science, there are several patterns of companies having data scientists in different teams. One example is that data scientists belong to a lot of different teams, like sales team have their own data scientist, marketing team have their own data scientist, and research team does their own data scientists. Another pattern is that there's one single team, sometimes they're called center of excellence, that has all the data scientists in the company, and then they allocate projects to each of them. In case of, let's say, Gen AI budget, depending on how engineers or data scientists, I don't know, it depends, are scattered or consolidated across the company, then there should be different different strategy to decide who should have the budget?
Actually, it's a very, very interesting topic for me personally. So you mentioned that in some companies, data scientists are scattered across organization.
Yeah.
And some companies have a center of excellence in data science. So they have like central team with a bunch of data scientists. But then each division or each country, they don't have a data scientist, right? I think both operating models are fine, right? Depends on their strategy and also more like internal resources. So what I meant is that, we face this issue in HR, data analytics, people analytics as well. And as far as I know, most of the companies, they have central data people analytics team. The simple reason is that there are not many people analytics experts, right? So marketing or like operations, there are a lot of people who can do there are many marketing digital experts who gain this data analytics, data science knowledge. But especially in HR, there are not many HR people who can skillfully build like dashboards and gain insights, right? So oftentimes the central people analytics team is in charge of building dashboard, and then the each HR team, they don't create their own dashboard. Or maybe they have like a small dashboard with the Excel spreadsheet or Power BI. But then mainly the data analytics, data science expert skills are concentrated in the central team. So I think this is kind of common operating model when it comes to people analytics.
Okay.
Many HR organizations don't have a lot of experts with people analytics. So in this case, only the central team will have a budget and then develop dashboard and then let each HR team to use it.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe there will be some cross charge or budget distribution, but when you start to talk about that, it's going to be too detailed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so we talked about organizational dynamics. So let's move on to the last piece of the framework, which is drawbacks. The first four elements are kind of like a little bit of positive topics, but then the drawbacks is like the risks, I would say. Let me explain a little bit more. So as we saw, we discussed some certain level of job displacement will happen, like customer services or assistant roles. So it's when it happens, of course, it's some people will lose their job, and it actually happened. It's happening right now, and then consequence is anxiety among workers. This kind of anxiety will negatively impact organization, right? So we have to be really careful about that. Right. So this is one potential drawback. We saw this one in the printing press and the industrial revolution as well. Well, not much about the printing press, but the industrial revolution. Many artisans lost their job, right? And then they have to work in a factory where the working conditions were very harsh. And then because it doesn't require a lot of skills, the wage is also lower than before. This is we saw the same kind of impact in history.
Right.
So so this is job displacement. I said many jobs will be enhanced, not fully replaced, but for sure some people lose their jobs. For sure. And then when it comes to generative AI, we also need to think about disinformation and ethical concerns, like AI hallucinate, right? So we talked about it like in the previous episodes as well, but we cannot fully trust on what ChatGPT responds to us.
Right.
And then also AI can be biased as well, depending on the training data. They are not perfect. And also AI generated content can infringe on IP rights, intellectual property rights. So that's another issue. And also we have to be aware of the environmental impact of generative AI. I'm not sure if I remember correctly, but creating one image consumes the same energy, as much energy as when you charge your phone.
Oh,
your
really?
smartphone.
Wow.
I think so. I'm not sure. That just, I don't want to be giving you the wrong information, but something like that. Yeah, it consumes a lot of energy. Right. So while we are many companies promoting generative AI tools to facilitate and enhance employees' work, and on the other hand, we really need to be careful about more energy consumption, which eventually raises the Earth's temperature. So we have, as an HR, companies have this responsibility. Yeah. So always there are risks associated with the new technologies. And then printing press, industrial revolution, generative AI are no exception. Right? So, and then HR comes into play in terms of trainings, for example, because, as we saw, new technologies will require new skills, but also new technologies will require prudence among employees. The employees have to be careful,
right?
And then about the drawback of new technologies. So this is HR roles, to train, to understand the drawbacks, and then create a training or awareness program with the business, and then execute this training module programs. If no one really talks about like AI hallucination or bias or the internal guideline rules about AI tools usage, and it's gonna be disastrous.
Yep.
HR really needs to understand the drawbacks and then prepare for the potential reputation risks. Right?
Yeah, that's important.
And
yeah.
otherwise, imagine that your company infringes on IP rights, and then you will damage your company's reputation.
Oh, definitely.
And then also, sometimes it can lead to ethical issue, right? So it's not about generative AI, but I think it was almost, I don't know maybe 10 years ago, or maybe a little bit less. But Amazon implemented this screening tool, and then they pass a candidate who are white, and because the AI recognizes white men as a successful employees, just because in the top management there are more white men.
Right.
This is not generative AI. It's a long time ago, but yeah, if you're not aware of this kind of bias,
like when you create the AI model, not only Gen AI but just regular machine learning models or any kinds of things, there are some framework to analyze if the model meets ethical metrics. Gender bias, racial bias, and there are quite a lot of metrics. I once studied about it. More and more companies are aware of it, but with the use of Gen AI, I think it's a good time to stop once and think again about those kind of stuff, because more and more people are using Gen AI now. And imagine like using Gen AI to create a marketing asset, like a poster or any kinds of things that can be exposed to public. And then if there's something ethically wrong, it will significantly damage the reputation.
Yes.
One correction to your comments about the energy consumption of the image generation model. It's roughly the same as charging your phone to 24%, not fully.
Okay.
Yeah, so generating one image is equivalent to 24% charge.
I see.
Okay, well, so I think we covered all the 5 elements, right?
Yes.
We did it. I mean, it was long.
Yeah.
But super interesting, and especially with this very hot topic of Gen AI. I think we talk about quite useful stuff. And it's also great to learn that, the same framework can be used to analyze different tech advancements regardless of time. Printing press, industrial revolution. I believe there were a lot of other historical events that we can also use this framework. Also, personally, there are 2 nice things about this framework. The first one is that it lets you prepare your mindset. It prevents you from blindly panicking. You can just relax because it happened in the past. You can review the past and learn from it. The second thing is that, especially for the HR people, it helps you break things down into actionable points.
Yes.
If you listen today's episode and the last episode carefully, we really talked about actionable insights. So I believe it will be useful for the HR people.
Yes, I totally agree. I just want to add one thing. As you said, it happened in the past. But we have to be careful about saying that, okay, in generative AI, this will happen and this will not happen because, during the Industrial Revolution, this happened or this didn't happen. Right? We have to be careful of saying this because no two identical events will happen.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
So the future is always different from the past.
Yeah.
But having said that, it's always, learning from the past and then extract fundamental structure behind the event will help us better prepare for the future, right? So, but yeah, overall, I definitely agree with your summary. So this is why we are learning from the past and then extract the fundamentals and then think about the future. This is exactly what we want to do in this blog, right? Right. So we should learn from like 7,000 years of history, not only from the current best practice in the industry, because it's just, it's a very short period of time. But looking back, looking at history, we have a plenty of learning resources and events, best practices or worst practices.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to add that point before ending our episode.
Cool.
And I'm sure that sometimes I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if I express myself properly. Sometimes it was like I was speaking and at the same time thinking, so might be sometimes confusing. But I'm also confident that I delivered some important points or insights. Yes.
Well, so, we hear from the listeners.
Yes. Let's see. Yes.
Cool. So what is our next topic, by the way?
We are going to talk about people analytics.
People analytics.
Yeah, so we talked about it even in this episode, but our next focus will be on people analytics.
Okay, looking forward to the next episode and see you next time.
Thank you very much for listening and see you next time.